And this is Big Jon Sampson. I'm joined now by Charlie Allen Martin, one of the original members of Bob Seger's Silver Bullet Band. How are you, Charlie?
I'm good. Thanks.
So tell me, how did you originally get involved with the Silver Bullet Band? Who brought you in?
Well, it was in the summer of 1973, and I had just turned 21 years old. And I was putting a band together with a friend of mine, Rick Manasseh, who was a keyboard player that I played in other bands with, and we decided we wanted to put our own band together. And we had a sax player, Roger Russo, who also was a killer harmonica player, and he knew Chris Campbell. Rick knew Chris Campbell. And Bob had been off down in Nashville cutting tracks with the studio musicians down there for what was eventually going to become Seger 7, okay, see Bob's 7th album. And so while he was down there and not touring, Chris was playing in the bars, and that's how Rick knew or something. Anyway, so Rick became our bass player, and we were auditioning guitar players, and then Chris said to me, Bob's looking for a drummer, and I think you'd be just right, because he told me he'd been auditioning. He came back, he had come back by that time from Nashville, and was ready to put a band together. And I guess he was auditioning drummers and couldn't find one he liked. And the funny thing about that is, if I had known he was auditioning drummers, I probably would not have auditioned, because I would have thought, well, I won't make it. He could get anybody he wants. So by 74, the band was complete. Now, alto wasn't a part of the band at that time. Alto wasn't even alto at that time. It was still Tom Cartmel. But alto had a job, with Wayne State making a lot of money, and we weren't making nothing on the road. So he wasn't going to quit his nice paying job and go on the road and make nothing. So he would just come out and kind of sit in when we played in town. He never toured with us, or he never rehearsed with us back in that day. That era. So anyway, the Seger 7 album came out, and we had cut he had cut most of it down in Nashville, but it wasn't called the Silver Bullet Band then. Right. It was just called the Bob Seger Band. And we cut 3 tracks for the album, one of which was UMC, which was released as a single, and did, reasonably well in his particular markets, which weren't many. And then the next album that we did, the next album he did was the Beautiful Loser album.
Right.
All of which, pretty much, he cut down in Muscle Shoals, which was a very popular studio. It had become a very, trendy, popular studio. Everybody was going down there, bands and soloists, because they had their sound worked out, and it was just perfect, And so Bob liked that. He went, because he didn't have to, for one thing, I think why he liked to use studio musicians over band musicians, he didn't have to pay studio musicians royalties,
Right. So you worked on them. So you worked on a couple tracks on Sevens, and then a couple tracks on Beautiful Loser.
3 tracks on Seger 7.
Okay.
And then only one track on Beautiful Loser. Bob decided after he was all pretty much finished with the album, he decided that the last thing they wanted to do a cover of Tina Turner's Up with City Limits, which is, of course, on Live Bullet. And so the Bob Seger Band at that time, cut the studio version of Up with City Limits. And then, we were touring just constantly. I mean, literally like 300 days a year. And we were getting very, 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 very tight as a result of that. And Bob had a contract with Capitol Records that he had to give them an album every, 10 months or something. And the next album that he was going to put out would have been the Night Moves album, but he still wasn't finished with that. He still needed time with that. He hadn't written enough songs, or he hadn't written enough songs that he liked, or whatever. So to solve him off, literally, we, Punch and Bob, decided, let's do a live album, because there was a trend going on around that time. You know, Frampton Comes Alive, Kiss Alive, and the Allman Brothers had released a live album. So we thought, hey, this is the thing to do. So it'll be like a greatest hits album and a live album. And we did that, and obviously it came off great because it's his, you know, highest charting or highest selling album, and won all kinds of awards from DJs and reader polls and stuff like that. Is the best rock album, live rock album ever recorded, which is amazing. But anyway, so that gave Bob a little more time to finish up, you know, working on the Night Moves album. And we ended up playing on 5 tunes on that album. And they were Rock and Roll to Forget, Mary Lou, I can't remember the other ones.
A couple other ones. Now, shortly after Night Moves came out,
and then so when the Night Moves album came out, and that song we happened to play on the title track. And by that time, we were called we had gone from the Bob Seger band to the Silver Bullet band, and how that came about. A story that I heard, you know, I'm not even sure about this, but somebody had called Bob, you know, you're like the Lone Ranger. Mm-hmm. And then they said, well, then these guys in your band, they're like your Silver Bullets, right? You know, so that's how the band name supposedly came about. But anyway, we played on the title track, Night Moves, and that, with the impact of the live album, the Night Moves album took off and opened up a whole bunch of markets for him, you know.
Right.
Now, here's a funny thing. There's a venue up here called the Pontiac Silver. And in June of 1976, we headlined there along with Todd Rundgren and Elvin Bishop, and I think it was 38 Special or something like that, all opened for us, and we were the headliners, and we had around 80,000 people in that place, right?
Wow.
And then just maybe 2 days later, we played a gig in Chicago at a bar with less than 1,000 people in it. Nobody knew us in Chicago, right? But we were huge in Florida and Texas and California and the Midwest. We still had to work on the East Coast. We hadn't broken the East Coast yet. So we had started to work on some tracks for what would have become the next album, which was the beautiful, the Brave Strangers album. And during that period of rehearsal and stuff, coming home from rehearsal one time, driving home, I ran out of gas and walked to a gas station and got a can of gas. This was about 7:30 at night, and it's kind of dusky. And the last thing I remember is stepping out from the curb, and I woke up in the hospital 5 weeks later. I'd been in like a kind of a semi-comatose state for about 5 weeks, and I was just totally broken to pieces from the waist down. What had happened was a young girl driving under the influence, with speeding, with no headlights on, hit me, and I didn't see her, and she didn't see me, and that was the end of my drumming career. I went from like the bottom to the very top to the very bottom overnight.
Oh my goodness! And there's a lot of people that ask me as a DJ, whatever happened to Charlie? geez, he was a great drummer. What happened to him? And I've known you for a number of years, and I explained the situation to him. But I say he's more than just a drummer. He's a phenomenal vocalist. He's a phenomenal keyboard player. But most importantly, he's a phenomenal man.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, and you are too. And
I appreciate that.
Making your friendship has been one of the best things in my life.
And I think you recently told me that you're working on a CD now. It's kind of like a work in progress, correct?
Well, yeah, that's my goal.
Okay.
Before the bell rings for last call, I think I better get something out there because I recorded a number of my songs. I mean, full-blown, studio recordings, productions, things that I've written or co-written, but I've never released any of them. So I'm planning on, yet I am still, even to this day, I just turned 67, I'm still writing songs and still writing lyrics and still writing music, and so I'm going to try and release a CD that, it might even end up being a double CD, who knows, that's going to be kind of like an overview of my career. It's going to be like recent stuff and older stuff that goes all the way back to 1980, and it'll just be a kind of like a overview. The greatest hits of Charlie Martin that you've never heard.
The greatest hits you've never heard. That could be a good title.
That's
right. Charlie, I have to say it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and I hope we can get you back another time when we have more time to talk. I'd like to sit down with you for a couple hours and talk, but we're limited here.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being my guest this evening, and I hope to hear from you again real soon.
It was my pleasure, and I hope that your listeners could understand me because I talk so fast. Good luck.
I'm sure. Okay, Charlie, thank you.
Thank you for watching the Big Jon Sampson Show. Please hit the share, like, and subscribe buttons. Your cash tips are much appreciated and encouraged. It's through your voluntary financial support I'm able to continue to produce this program. Please send your cash tips to P.O. Box 28, Wells, Michigan, 49894. That address again, P.O. Box 28, Wells, Michigan, 49894. And I thank you for supporting my show.